Welcome to the Monday Monologue. Today I want to kind of rehash some of the stuff we've been talking about over the last year or so about online reviews and where some of these opinions come from. I don't know if you saw the video, this little Decware amp that I did earlier this week, but it's kind of made me rethink what I've been saying about these online reviewers and how they rate these different products, and ask the question, where is the bar? What do they consider like a good tube amplifier? And some of this could possibly explain like where they get these Amp of the Year awards and other things that these folks have published about some of the products that I was scratching my head like, how do they come up with this as the Amp of the Year? Or how do they come up with these glowing reviews? And I'm starting to wonder if some of these guys have really ever listened to a good tube amp. And I'm not trying to claim that like my tube amps that I build are like, the Holy Grail or some handed down from God kind of products. But I do think they're very decent sounding tube amps, and they measure reasonably well when you test them, and I'm coming from kind of that viewpoint. And I personally kind of consider this 6SQ7 EL34 amp that I've done on my channel as kind of the baseline of like, here's the bar. And if it's below this amp, I'm not going to jump up and down and say, oh my God, this is the best sounding thing ever. I'm going to say, hey, this is a decent sounding amp for what it is, which is what this little 6BM8 amp is. And it's a, if you need 1 watt of power, it's going to sound pretty good. If you're needing 2 watts of power, you're starting to kind of push what this thing can do, because it's going up into the 3% distortion level. And over that, yeah, it's not going to be good. And it doesn't have a ton of bass response. It needs the reinforcement of a powered sub. This amp can be played just standalone. It doesn't need a powered sub. If you got speakers that can play good bass and they're fairly efficient, this amp will do its thing just as is. But I'm not sure that these online reviewers are using this as a bar. An example is this little Decware amp, which to me is more around this level of amp. It's got a little more bass response, but it's also got a lot more distortion. It's got almost twice the distortion that this amp does at the same power levels. And it's not real surprising that a triode strapped pentode at this dissipation level 2 is going to have about the same power as these 6BM8 tubes run in ultralinear. It's just the nature of the beast. And I've said before, I'm not a big fan of how these triode strap pentodes sound. Some people are huge fans of them. I'm just not one of those people. I like these sound more spunky to me, have a little more life to them. These sound just too syrupy, and they're just not my taste. And this is an example of an amp that is going to sound too syrupy. It's got a lot of harmonic distortion, and it's not going to make a lot of power. You're going to have to use real sensitive speakers with it. And is this what the bar is? Because if you're using this as like the benchmark, things like the A12 are going to sound good. Things like the A50 are probably going to sound good. And you saw what I said about both of those. And in my honest opinion, a skunky modified A12 sounds way better than this Decware amp does. And so I'm just not sure if maybe that's what we're running into. And that through the audiophile hype world, things like this have gotten sold to people as being like the benchmark of this is what a tube amp's supposed to sound like. We've been doing this for 20 years. We know what a tube amp's supposed to sound like. And they're given this, and then, they kind of hype breeds hype. And they start talking about, holographic imaging and, you know, wide sound stage and all these other, you know, wine tasting adjectives, when the reality is this is a fairly high distortion amplifier that doesn't make much power that sells for $1,200. And then they claim that you can bridge them to make over twice the power that they have as a stereo amp, which doesn't even make sense, because 2.3 plus 2.3 does not equal 6. And hey, there's times when I've said, hey, sometimes 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2. In this case, it does. This is a 4.6 watt amp when it's bridged. Now, maybe if you're blowing this thing into a 4 ohm load, it'll make more power, but that's not going to reduce the distortion that it has. And somebody asked me, hey, I've got $2,400 to spend. Should I buy a pair of these and bridge them? I'd say absolutely not. There's way better options out there if you need 5 or 6 watts of power. And I again feel like that a 812 with my skunky mods done to it is going to have more power and less distortion than a pair of these have for $2,400, and it's a $500 amplifier. So yeah, I'm just wondering exactly what's going on here. And I'm not trying to bash Decware. And obviously they're a successful company and they've got fans. There's a whole bunch of people that like their products. This is their bottom tier product. They sell a version of this for $3,500. And hey, maybe it resolves all of the things that I'm seeing with this $1,200 unit. But I don't know how they can sell this and make the claims that they're making about how great it sounds when you can see what it actually is. And I hate making videos like that. And I know I'm going to get a lot of haters from it. There's going to there's a whole bunch of, what gives you the right to think you know more than they do? I'm just showing you what I'm seeing on the software analyzing these. And they match what I'm hearing. When I listen to this compared to this, it's not even the same sport. I mean, it's not even close to the same quality level of sound. And so, hey, that's why we DIY. It's because we can build stuff like this. And I think I've added up the parts, and they're $600-700. They may be $800 now with inflation. But if you can build one of these, it's going to kick this little amp's butt, and it's $1,200. Now, they do have a lifetime warranty, which has to be figured into the price. It's probably $200 of the price having a lifetime warranty. And so you have to consider that, and it's pre-built. You just plug it in and go. And, I don't know. Some of you guys may love the way this thing sounds. But I'm trying to be honest about what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. And to me, an A12 sounds almost exactly like this amp does. And if you triode strap an A12, which is moving one resistor a pin over, it's going to have the same sound this amp does for $500. And then if you do the mods to it and triode strap it, this is going to sound really close to what this thing does, I think. I mean, I haven't compared them. I don't have an A12 here to do the back-to-back from, but I hope you get my point, that I feel like that the point of this video was, what's the bar? And it might explain some of what we're seeing with some of the more popular YouTube reviewers, that if an amp like this is what they're considering is the bar that they're comparing these other amps to, then those other reviews start making sense. So anyway, that's pretty much it for the video today. I do want to kind of update you guys on the channel. My life partner is having surgery. I'm going to spend about a week taking care of them. So it's probably not going to be much done on the channel or any of my projects next week. We'll be back 1st of November, dive back into this stuff. Got some other cool projects that have gotten tossed into my lap. I was hoping to get those R300s done by the end of this month, but unfortunately, personal crisis came up. Plus, I've had stuff going on with my work outside of YouTube that has taken up a lot of my time, which is some really cool stuff, but that's not for this channel. But anyway, I hope you're enjoying this content. I hope you're enjoying my channel. If you are, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Thank you, Patreon supporters. I especially want to thank viewers that send me gear like this for me to showcase, for you guys to show you what I see out there in the hi-fi world. And we'll see you for the next Monday monologue.